think one of us is going to have to take our glasses off. I think I'm going to do it, or people will think that I'm just talking to myself.
That'll just screw your whole party up now. Look at that.
That's just ruined it. Although I always look a little bit redder. And I put that down to, do you know Thor Holt?
Yeah.
So Thor put me on to, I knew about this guy, Wim Hof, his breathing techniques and cold water showers. And I thought, yeah, I'll give it a go. But for about 4.5 solid weeks now, a cold shower at the end of the shower, now up to about a full track of music just in the freezing cold shower. But I'm red for the rest of the day. But I feel magic. I feel terrific. It's really, really good. So
yeah, I dabbled into that a little bit, and then I'm naturally a hot person anyway, so I get it. I get it works for some and it doesn't work for everybody, but and everybody I've said I know who's using it just loves it. And said actually I feel reinvigorated every time they do it.
Totally. I'm going to have to ask before we start on this properly. That's not Kylie Minogue or Kim Wilde up behind you, is it?
Oh please, no, that's Madonna, borderline Japanese import, 12-inch. Probably one of the best melodies and songs ever written, in my personal opinion.
And you've spun a few vinyls in your life, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, the music for me, I'm not an album guy. Somebody asked me the other day, one of these Facebook or Instagram things, I nominate Graeme Gordon to tell us about 10 albums that changed his life. And I go, I've got about 3. So obviously Dark Side of the Moon for everybody. Yep. Thriller was just amazing, but Off the Wall for me was a better album. Mm-hmm. De La Soul, 3 Feet High and Rising is just unbelievable. Just an album that is on beyond compare. But Duran Duran Rio, just a stunning album again. Just an album that you could put on and listen to all the time. I was actually more into Seven and the Ragged Tiger. I was a big Durani, and Rio I didn't gel with so much, but I loved Seven and the Ragged. I like that kind of like the kind of dystopian future Duran Duran with flames and all of that. They were steampunk. They were steampunky before steampunk was a thing. I think around about that album. Yeah. And what I like about Rio itself, if you listen to Rio, so I'm somebody who decomposes. Decomposes. Is that the right word?
Decompresses.
Decompresses. Yeah. One of those is. I'm not a diver. I listen to tracks. I'm not a big lyricist. I don't listen to. I'm not emotionally moved by lyrics. But the bass line in Rio is unbelievable if you listen to it. Now, obviously, Duran Duran had nothing to do with playing that bass line. No. Maybe latterly. But at the time when whoever that session musician was, is just phenomenal. And then you get into Bowie. I suppose Let's Dance as an album for me was Scary Monsters was good, but I like Nile Rodgers, so I like a lot of the Chic heavy produced stuff. I mean, his greatest quote was, somebody said, "How do you know when you've got it right?" And his answer was, "Well, you never hear it when I've got it wrong." Yeah. So he's a producer, so that sort of thing. So. And then you get up to date with some of the Killers stuff. Certainly Kasabian, Highway to Hell Forever. Back in Black's a great album. So it's music for me. And then and the reason I'm not really into albums because I DJ. So music for me was at most 5 minutes long. Yep. Continuously. And if it was 5 minutes long, you'd either go into the bar for a drink or a pee, and you put on a 12-inch record, and you hadn't mixed yet. But usually, music for me lasted anything between 2.5 and 4 minutes because you were mixing all the time. And just an eclectic mix of music from nightclubs. I mean, I first started DJing in the ice rink in Spring Garden in Aberdeen. And one of the DJs went, "I'm off for a pee, you play the next record." And he came back half an hour later. So I managed somehow to play 7-inch records back to back. And I just went, I could do this. Yeah, so it was good. So I've got everything. And music is my go-to calming thing, and not necessarily with headphones in. My ears are ruined from years in nightclub. I mean, I haven't had complete silence since I was probably 30, and that's nothing to do with being married. That's just to do with my ears being completely screwed. So I've always liked background noise. There's certain genres of music I would never put on, but are just always something in the background, always something in the car. I find it hard to work in silence, travel in silence, so because I've got no silence in my head. So, yeah.
I'm a bit the
Love a
same.
good tune.
My wife thinks I'm odd because when I'm trying to concentrate, I put on a podcast or the TV or music or something. I need noise in the background. I need some kind of chatter or some kind of rhythm in order for me to allow me to actually concentrate. That's my personality, right there in a nutshell.
Yeah.
So
and that. Yeah. Go on.
I was going to say, I know this has been hammered to death, but I do, one of the reasons I asked you on is because value your opinion on where you put your coin on this subject. But so talking to your friends, talking to your clients, talking to your suppliers, talking to industries, economies and all of that, and looking at what's happening on social media and all of that, you get various camps forming. And I get the serious impression, not just the impression, but some people think we just need to get back to normal and everything will be fine and we'll truck on and, we'll just get over this and it'll take a wee bit of time to get back. Some people think some things will change. Some people think everything has changed. Where do you put your coin on that one?
So I've been using this line. It sounds, I don't know if I got it from Jerry Maguire or not, but I think I've picked it up somewhere, but I'll probably bastardize it a little bit. Change very seldom happens simultaneously, or universally, and it very seldom happens spontaneously. But what's happened? Everything's changed for everybody at the same time. And change usually, evolution. You usually see a tech trend change or a cultural change or a fashion change, and it creeps. It comes through and it affects different people at different times in different ways. Some adopt it harder than others. Everybody's been hit with the same change universally in the same way. And I think that normal, we're 10 years away from being normal. And, and what I mean by that is, you go on 2 holidays a year internationally. So you put yourself in a metal tube and fly into America and go to Disney. And, that's the type of holidays we like, or south of France with the bikes and the tents or whatever. I think we're, self-confidence wise, 2 years away from that.
Yeah.
I think that I wouldn't get in an aeroplane unless I really had to for that period. And that's self-comfort. But also because I probably don't need to now. Whereas before I would have to travel a lot more to go and come and see you, come and be there, do that engagement thing. I think the biggest change is how people approach people. It's not the technology thing. It's how people are going to behave toward one another. And I've spoken quite a lot on things like this about personal brand. And people. I view myself sometimes like pizza. People. Everybody likes a bit of pizza, but you get pretty bored with it after a while, and it's quite shallow, and it's quite this, that, and the other. But that's a CEO mentality. That's a CEO mentality. You've got imposter syndrome. I'm bloody good at what I do. I just haven't worked out completely what I do all the time. And people still will want to seek each other out. People will still want to be around other people because that's where you get your energy from. Yep. These things are great. These things are great, and you come off it. What a great chat I had with Eric, and he's a good guy. We've got common interests. His family's like this, that, and the other. But actually, what you really want to do from my generation is go down the pub, have a pint, go and see a live band together.
Yep.
These sort of things. So culturally, I don't think that will go away. And I think that deep urge and desire will come back in. But 10 years maybe is a stretch, and a lot can happen in 10 years. But borders will close, countries will look inward and will not really be interested about taking people in. People will facilitate working and meeting and greeting like this and embrace it much more. I think education has probably got 5 years to recover from this, from that blended learning. People come out the far end of this. If you're coming into P1, P2, P3 just now, P7, S1, S2 just now, you've had your life disrupted. You've had 6 months of a life that's only 12 years old. That's a massive disruption. No, you'll heal from that quite quickly, but I think the knock-on effect, the ripple effect, is way out there for this.
Yeah, big time. And even adding in, just following on the academic side. I mean, my daughter's she just submitted her end of year project for her honours degree in graphics design in Edinburgh, and it was pretty hard prior to this for students to be able to see the future. Now she can't even spell future. She's like, well, it's clear I'm going to have to go and work in a shop and be a struggling graphic designer that maybe works freelance and stuff like that. Yeah, I think the knock-on effects are huge. How about for the city and the industries that we're connected to? What impact do you see there, Graeme?
I think that very. I mean, certainly from Aberdeen's point of view, but Scotland is a nation, and the UK is a nation. You know, we're not that big. You can drive from one end to the other in about 11 hours. So you try doing that in the States. I think the opportunity there is people still are the glue that pull that together. One of the reasons Aberdeen has been massively successful, from fish into agriculture into oil and gas and everything else that's spawned out of that, is money. There's no doubt about it. You know, to have a successful ecosystem, you need to have a great place to live, good people, but money. And Aberdeen's had that in abundance since 71 with the first oil. But if you go way back into agriculture, you look at the Roodsla Quarry with the granite works that were there, shipbuilding, we've always punched above our weight as a postcode. And a lot of that is because the people who have founded these things have wanted to stay here. So we've had money, we've had industry, we've had employment, we've had people, and we've got a great place to live. I think the reinvention of energy transition. I think the stat the other day, there's something like 8 million, or is it billion? I can't remember. I can't remember what the total is. Million or billion, whatever the magnitude is, of oil between North Sea, Gulf of Mexico, and Brazil. There's 800 million barrels in Saudi or the Middle East. So we're a small factor, and we always have been. But I think if we can entice people who have created those industries and been a key part of those industries to stay here and enjoy the environment, because it's a great environment. I've found a newfound love for road cycling. That's because there's nobody in the road with cars, which is great. That'll go once cars come back. You're an hour and a half from Wild Tracks in Aviemore, which is some of the best downhill in Scotland for the average biker. And I'm 20 minutes from Kirkhill Forest and Countess Wells. I can get to there in 15 minutes on my bike. So if we can retain the people that have helped create this postcode, that will go a long way to keeping the smarts here. And if we can keep the smarts here, smart can export really well digitally. Yeah. If we can keep the smart base here, your daughter being creative and a graphic designer, she could be doing work for somebody in South Korea or Australia, it doesn't matter. Those smarts travel really, really well. We've got to give those kids and those not so kids a purpose to stay here and a reason to stay here. And that transition, I think, everybody will talk about oil fund and these other things. We're too late for all that. And what we really need to do is think, right, in 10 years' time, what do we want the city to look like? Is it going to be much bigger? Probably not. We might add a few thousand homes on here, but it's the quality of life for the people who are here. I think is really important. I think we've got quite a good balance here just now. I think Aberdeen ABZ postcode is pretty solid there. How many people do we know with a non-Aberdeen accent who've came here? I'm only here for 3 years, and 30 years later they're still here, because why would they move?
That's me.
Yeah,
that's me. Absolutely. Yeah. Came from Glasgow and started working offshore in 1990. Moved here in 2000, and it's been home for longer than Glasgow has. So I'm from Aberdeen. I started saying that about 15 years ago. Yeah, absolutely.
And the oxymoron to that for me is 3 kids in, one's 24, one's 21, one's 17. Go travel. Go and travel. Like, go and see live music. Go and see things that are in the flesh. Go and do all these things. All my life, all their life, I've encouraged the kids to go and do something different elsewhere. But one of them's gone and done that and has now come back. The one in the middle will go and do it somewhere else. So I feel for them and how they're going to do it. But nothing can be digitally transferred more than smart people. Smart people can use digital technology to present and project their ideas and their solutions and their services anywhere. So we've got a real opportunity to try and retain some really smart people here, I feel.
Yeah, indeed. One of the things that I think Aberdeen was getting pretty good at was getting slightly better at being creative and innovative. Things like OGTC and some of the sort of funding houses that were pushing through innovation for other places in the world. Can we still be creative digitally? Does it still work? Do we have to be connected? Do we have to be, Can that innovation and creativity actually survive on Zoom and in Teams?
Hell yeah. I mean, I'm glad you used the word creative. We overuse the word innovative a lot because it's a Bright thing, it's a West Coast States thing, it's a Seattle thing. Everybody wants to be innovative. Actually, most people, out of 100 people, probably, 95 of them wouldn't be innovative. But probably 99 of them would be creative. People, and what I mean is that they would come up with hey, what if we did that? That's not innovative, that's creative. What if we did, and actually then deliver it? I mean, Aberdeen's an engineering city. Yeah. One of my biggest, I would love in my lifetime for the British Science Museum to have an outcrop in Aberdeen, the same way as the V&A have done something in Dundee.
Wow. Yeah.
I think that would be the most amazing thing, because if you talk about, there are some oil rigs that are further away from Aberdeen than the International Space Station is. And if you talk about harsh, terrifying environments that you've got to survive in, and then you've got space, and people go, well, that's not quite the same thing. The creative side of things, the North Sea has forced people to develop solutions to real problems really quickly. And I would love that to be combined with further education. And as I say, the British Science Museum have an outcrop up here, to celebrate engineering, not just in the North Sea, but in Scotland, in Aberdeen, in the UK, global engineering right here, and do that as the same way as the V&A, possibly with a bit better use of space, but maybe just as pretty a building, and do that in Aberdeen. I think would be just an amazing thing. Maritime Museum's a great thing, but if you transpose that into an oil rig, that downhole environment, that engineering, that Science Museum in Edinburgh, I mean, just the National Museum in Edinburgh, we're not missing that in terms of there's not a gaping hole, but if we had it, wow, I think, and that would further demonstrate, that would spark creativity, not just in kids coming through it, but adults coming through it going, why am I stuck behind a desk pushing pencils or mice now, designing things? I want to get back in my shed and build something. I want to go and do a Dyson, or I want to go and do a thing. I want to go and make something, physically make something, or mentally make something. And back to your point there, can you be creative digitally? Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that what's the end product? What is it I'm trying to do? Is it a subscription? Is it a membership? Is it a solution? Is it an improvement? Is it healthcare? Absolutely. Creativity. Everybody can be creative. We get it beaten out of us at some point. And for some people it reignites, and for some people it just sort of dims away a little bit.
It's so true that you say that it gets beaten out of you at some point, because I think in everyone's career, I mean, I grew up thinking I was fairly creative. I was all about art and music. That's what I wanted to do. Wanted to go to the Royal Academy of Music and Drama to be a trombone student, and my father looked over his paper and said, no, you'll be a spark like every other Doyle is. You'll get a trade. And I was not creative. I was just functional for years. And thankfully I grabbed on a couple of little threads of it, which probably helped to make me what I am today, but so easily could have been lost. That's the thing that gets me, is how many inventors, how many digital superstars are there out there who have just been put in a box and forgotten about it, or never knew about it, never knew they had the skill.
Yeah, and that's it. All DJs, unless you're a producer, are frustrated musicians. All I'm doing is playing somebody else's music. I've got a very talented 17-year-old son who can pick up a football, a trumpet, a keyboard, a guitar, and just sit
Natural.
there. And I hate him. I know I'm not allowed to say him, but I hate him. But he's got that. And so I'm really and that's why I listen to the music. I'm not really, as I said, interested in the lyrics, but the music, how music is formed. It's why I'm quite a good mixer. I'm not a brilliant mixer, but I'm quite a good, because I listen to the key and the tone and the beat, and you put those things together and you get different songs or different genres coming together quite simply. So it's thinking in a different way, and that's creative, but it's nowhere creative enough to write a piece of music.
No, indeed. You do some fair bit of interviewing and podcasting yourself. Did you not meet one of the founders of the internet recently?
Yeah. So Vint Cerf. So He is an amazing character. I've been very lucky enough with some of the roles that I've done in terms of Scotland IS, being on the board and the chairman there. And I hosted him a few years ago in Edinburgh for Scotsoft, which is a celebration of sort of digital and technical services. And he was there as one of the speakers. So, you know, the founder of the internet, and you Google him a little bit, because you know about, in our industry, you know about, because I'm a networking guy, you know, we're a networking company. And without him, none of this would be here. Or, you know, it would have arrived in a different way. And he's quite modest, but he knows his place in history, which is a great thing. And he's just one of these guys you hit off with. So I caught up with him quite recently. I've taken inspiration from you and others and looked at how I can waste my time or use my time much better than I'm doing just now, and go, Jesus. So it was three's the magic number. Back to music, De La Soul. 3 things he's done in his past, 3 things he's doing right now, 3 things he wants to do in the future. So here's the guy who, along with Bob Kahn, invented the modern internet, the protocol that everything sits on top of it. And we were really lucky. He opened our offices for us in Aberdeen, Building 54. And this is the type of guy he is. But I knew he was coming to Scotland to get an honorary doctorate for St Andrews University. Hey, Vint, because, you know, I'm a little bit fanboyish, so I'll stalk him a little bit. And he always replies. He's very generous with his time, as I say. Hey, Vint, you're in Scotland. How about we arranged it that you flew into Aberdeen, came and opened Building 54, blah, blah, blah. The first email came back from him. He said, so why have you called your building Building 54? Well, it's number 54 on the street, but Building 54 in Boston is the meteorological building in Boston, but the computer science students hack it every year and play giant Tetris. So this is a huge building in the middle of MIT, and they play giant Tetris by switching all the lights on and off. He went, yes, I'll come. He goes, if you're thinking that way, I'll come. So he's one of these guys. When he opened the offices, he was talking about, yeah, we've done this, that, and the other, and we now have an interplanetary internet. So all the Mars controllers, all the Mars rovers, are all controlled the same protocol he wrote back in UCLA back in, 50 years ago. Cameron, my oldest son, and I were lucky to be out in UCLA for the 50th anniversary of the internet last October. So 50 years ago, 51 years ago now, that's what these guys did. I mean, you look at the stuff, it's real Heath Robinson stuff. It's big switches and knobs, Bakelite, dials, and bzz, and amazing. Yeah, and he tells you, he goes, yeah, we sort of invented the internet in the back of a van between there and San Bernardino and somebody on the West Coast. I think it was maybe, and he just got all these stories. So, and for me, he's one of the head evangelists at Google, and for us, every now and again, he'll introduce you to a new technology or a new way of thinking that Google are introduced you to. Just to have that route. So that's back to your creativity side of things, I suppose. You can only create a network or a relationship if you go and try and create one. You know, creativity, some of the most creative people, you go and knock on the door, and the worst thing that can happen is nobody comes back to you. The best thing that's happened is I've now got Vint Cerf's mobile number in my phone. So yeah, kind of cool.
Kind of cool, indeed. Right, and just in closing, you're a business owner. You're up to your armpits in running your business. Probably, I don't know anything about the comings and goings of your business, but I'm sure, like every other business, there's been some project delays and things being pushed a bit to the right and stuff like that. Clearly, you're gonna crack on. Are you thinking about diversification? Are you thinking about doing things differently as a business? What needs to change in your mind?
Pivot. Everybody's talking about pivot, and it's like, stop that. It's survival. You know, it's so what could we do differently? We actually go through this process. We go through this process on a sort of quarterly, 6-monthly basis as a senior team. What would we do differently? If we restarted now, if we sparked up IFB tomorrow, what would we do differently? And there's a ton of things you would do differently. But we've got an amazing client base, so you can't do things too much differently. You know, we've got 750 business customers. Some of the biggest oil and gas service companies in the world use us for key services. Some of the biggest law firms, all these. So you can't pivot too rapidly, or pivot's really easy to do if you're a startup, or you're a mega corporation that you're going to die. You know, Kodak didn't pivot, HMV didn't pivot. You know, and talk about global domination and didn't listen to the advisors or saw what was coming. So from our point of view, we're all about need, objective, and time frame, but really about proposition. And we're going to change our proposition quite dramatically. People think that we're a broadband company, or maybe a telephony company, or maybe a cloud services company, or maybe a security company. But actually, we're a problem-solving company. You know, where we in our logos and our brand, we've got the rocket. And instead of Houston, we've got a problem. It's Houston, we've got a solution. You know, and it's just trying to think those things through, because I think everybody's gone through 10 weeks, probably 5 weeks in, we were all going, Jesus Christ, not more problems. We know it's a problem. How do we get, and people now are trying to rethink and reboot their business. And we're right in the middle of that as IFB. We're right in the middle, actually coming out the other end of it really positively. Really good team effort, really good team contribution. What if, how about, how do we do this? And including that team as our customers. We've had some amazing feedback and interaction with our customers that's allowed us to go, no, that's a dog, we can't go after that, it won't work, there's no market for it. So the change is mainly going to be about proposition, which is really about culture. You know, we're not going to change the brand, so to speak, but the proposition we're going to re-identify with slightly. That's the biggest thing for us.
Very good, very good. Listen, it's been an absolute pleasure to catch up with you and hear your stories and your thoughts and perspective on the world. We wish you all the best, and you win. When I started doing these Crux Casts, I said I'm going to have a secret prize for anyone that can sneak on a little stealthy Stormtrooper into the actual recording, and you win. You won. It was a secret, and you win.
Well, there's two. There's the second one.
Oh wow! Right, listen, all the very best. I'll put up some contact information for people to get a hold of you if they can, your website and all of that. But thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks. Good seeing you, Eric. Cheers.
See you soon. Bye-bye.
Yeah.